Hello, I'd like to start this lesson by thinking about a kitchen. It can be your kitchen, it can be a friend's kitchen, it can be your perfect idea of a kitchen. Now I'd like you to think about the food and drink you would find there, and the quantities of the food and the drink you would find in these kitchens. How would you describe the quantities in English? If somebody asks you how much of something is there, or how many things there are, how would you answer these questions in English? In this lesson, we're going to be looking at quantifiers, the words and expressions we use to describe quantities of things. And of course, when we're talking about things, we're of course talking about nouns, specifically uncountable nouns, countable nouns, as well as the plural forms, and the expressions that we use with them. Now, first of all, we'll start with the basics, which is some and any. Some and any are very useful expressions to use when we're describing quantities because they're very general. They can be used in lots of different ways. For example, I have some money. Well, as you can see, money in English is an uncountable noun, and so some describes a certain number. It's not very specific, but what we do know is this person has enough money that they need. In the same way, I have some bananas. As you can see, plural form of the noun, bananas is countable in English. And again, we don't know the exact number, but we know that there is a good number. We have enough bananas in this situation. In the negative, we use any. You can't use some in negative sentences. So, for example, I don't have any cats. The number of cats in this situation is clear. There are 0 cats. We know this because this person doesn't have any. He doesn't have any space in his car. Space is an abstract, uncountable noun. And in this case, his car is full. And again, we know this from the negative use of any in this sentence. Now, what we're going to look at now are the sort of fairly basic question forms that we use to describe quantities. For example, how many and how much? Well, we use much with uncountable nouns. For example, how much time do we have? And how many with countable nouns. For example, friends. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4 countable friends. How many friends do you have? You can also use any in question forms. You can't really use some in question forms. For example, do you have any apples? And the question we're asking here is, what number of apples do you have? Which is a very unnatural thing to say. So by using some, any, how much, how many, you can make your English sound a lot more natural when talking about quantities. So far, we've looked at the basic ways of expressing quantity in English by using some, many, any, how much, how many. Now what we're going to look at is the way of describing bigger numbers and or describing negatives by using quantifying expressions. For example, all of us like beer. This is very clear, meaning everybody in the situation likes this thing. We can also use a lot of and lots of to describe a larger number than, say, some or any. For example, we have a lot of food in my fridge. We have lots of plants. Now, they are interchangeable. That is to say, the meaning is essentially the same, and it means a bigger number than some or any. You can use a lot of with an uncountable noun like food, but you could also say, we have a lot of plants with a countable noun. We have lots of food would also work as well. The thing to remember is just be careful with your use of the nouns. Uncountable nouns are commonly singular, whereas countable plural nouns are often finishing with an S. When we want to describe an even bigger number, we might use plenty of. For example, there are plenty of museums in London. That is to say, in the context of London, think about the number of museums. It's not just some museums. There's probably not even a lot of. It's bigger than that. There are a large number, so we would use plenty of. And again, plenty of can be used with both countable and uncountable nouns. If we want to be a bit more negative, that is to say, the number of things we're describing is more than we need, we would often use too much, too many. Now, in the same way when we looked at question forms earlier, we use much with uncountable nouns, for example, advertising, and we use many with countable nouns. So, for example, there is too much advertising on TV, and there are too many TV shows to watch these days. In both of these situations, the number of things is more than we need, and so we're sort of not happy about this situation. This is often how we use too much or too many. In terms of the question forms, you can incorporate most of these expressions into simple yes-no questions. For example, are there? A lot of, lots of, plenty of, too much, too many. Now I think the thing to remember is just be careful with too much and too many because they're specific to the kind of noun that you're going to be describing. And I think when you're asking questions like this or being asked questions like this, it's important to remember you answer with the expression that is most appropriate. And if you're really not sure, some and any can be very useful in this situation. To be even more accurate with your descriptions of quantities in English, you can also use some of the phrases we're going to look at now. The problem with some of these phrases is that they are not necessarily as clear as they seem. But first of all, we're going to start with a very useful expression in English, and that's enough. When we use enough, it's very useful because it describes the exact number that we need. For example, I have enough chairs in my flat. So in this person's flat, there are enough chairs. There's not too much, there's not too many. He has exactly what he needs. Enough can be used with countable plural nouns, but it can also be used with uncountable nouns. Now, on the other hand, we can talk about sort of numbers in the negative. So, for example, there are none of these things here. The number here is very clear. It's approximately 0. There are none. If you want, you can also use this with there is. There is none of this thing, as in one thing or an uncountable thing. There is no reason for doing that. And again, similar to none, the number is 0. Remember as well, we've got a singular noun here, so there is no singular noun. We could change it to plurals or countables. There are no plural nouns as well. And again, that number you're describing there is 0. Now, a few people came to my party. A few people is not a negative expression. It actually describes a healthy number. The problem with this is, depending on the context, the number can be different. So if you're having a big party, well, a few people, being a healthy number, might be anything up to sort of 50 to 100 people. If you're having a small party, a few people came to my party would describe, who knows, 5 or 6 people. I get a little tired. So here we're not really necessarily talking a negative situation. We're talking a small number of something. So in this context, I get a little tired, meaning I'm not very tired. So in certain situations, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I have a bit of wine in my glass. Now, depending if this person wants more wine, this could be described as negative. But generally speaking, when we're talking about a bit of something, we're describing a small number. Are there enough? Well, this question is very useful, as in, is the number what we need? Do we have enough of these things? And in the same way, do you have a little, as in a small number, a few, a healthy number, or enough, the exact number, in the context of a yes-no question? And again, the important thing to remember is, if you asked a question using a little, that doesn't mean your answer has to contain a little. Choose the correct quantifying phrase that's most useful for you. So far, we've looked at nouns, and we've looked at how to count those nouns, as in describe the quantity of something in English using quantifying expressions. We looked at some and any. We looked at how much and how many questions. Then we looked at how to describe more abstract concepts like larger numbers and small numbers, all the way to 0 in some cases. And then we finally looked at how to ask questions using these new quantifying expressions that we've looked at. So now you're going to take the exercises which follow this lesson. Good luck.